Misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. I've mentioned these terms in some of my other videos, and I've talked about them in reference to propaganda. But someone recommended that maybe I could break down what the difference in those three different things are. So, of course, let's do that. So, misinformation is the first one. And misinformation is when you are sharing inaccurate information, but you don't have a bad intent to do harm behind it. So an example of misinformation would be if you see a story on Facebook claiming that a certain brand of juice can cure breast cancer, and so you share that information with your network because you want your network to be safe and healthy, and you think this is good information, let me pass it on. But if the information is not true because it's not rooted in truth, that is classified as misinformation. Disinformation, on the other hand, is sharing inaccurate or false information with the intent to do harm. So an example of disinformation would be sharing statistics that are knowingly false about a certain demographic of society in order to push or encourage folks to change what their perception or belief is about that demographic of society. A good example of disinformation was eating the dogs, eating the cats. Now, malinformation is one of the most insidious forms of propaganda, and you don't hear it spoken about as often as dis or misinformation. But malinformation is when you take real or accurate data, footage, statistics, and twist the narrative behind what those statistics, data, or evidence actually represents. So an example of this would be taking footage from a genocide that occurred in a different country and labeling it as this is warfare that's currently happening in a different location. Okay, so more specifically, it would be like taking footage from a genocide that happened in Northern Africa in the 90s and saying that that footage is actually genocide against farmers in South Africa in 2025. These are all three very dangerous things, and they are relied on by creators of propaganda to spread knowingly false information and control different sorts of agendas in the media and in the government. There's nothing controversial about what I'm saying. These are just basic facts outlining what misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation is. I think that malinformation is incredibly dangerous, and it's something that citizen journalists and social media folks have the highest risk of perpetuating because of our bias we have around finding information that validates our opinion. So if you want to make a video and say, this is something I care about, I'm upset that this is happening, and you need to find some evidence of it, but you can't quite find something that fits, so you find something that fits relatively in a similar way, and you just pass it off as being part of a current situation. That is the literal creation of propaganda. It is so dangerous. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions about these three concepts, or need more examples, or if you ever want to share something with me and ask, is this misinformation, is this disinformation or malinformation, feel free to do that. So, thanks.